So today I thought we would talk about makeup brushes because I've bought 2 sets of makeup brushes because I wanted a couple brushes in there and I don't know what to do with the rest of them. So I invited my friend Bridget here to kind of tell us more about the brushes and what to look for and what to use them for. Start with the biggest.
Anything that looks remotely, that's kind of small. Like this. Oh, mine's funny.
This one. Oh, mine's funny too.
Okay, so these are your general powder brush. You can also use them for blush. If you don't have a smaller blush brush, it'll disperse it more so it won't be as intense. Other than that, these are just for powder. If you don't have a powder brush, it's probably one of the first brushes you should get because there's not a lot of other tools you can use to get that effect. Next is just a little bit smaller. These are like blush brushes. So like I said, you can use a big powder brush. This will give you a more intense look. They're going to be a little bit more dense. You can feel they're a little bit stiffer. And that'll give you a much more intense look. Contour brushes. You can see mine has quite a sharper angle. They're usually quite dense. They're used, I'm going to use yours a model. So most of what you use these for is contouring the face, often the cheekbone, maybe the side of the face. If you have a larger forehead, you use it to contour the forehead or the chin if you have a longer chin. My favorite thing to use this for is to chisel a jawline. So I'll take a darker color than I normally wear and I'll just brush it under here and then fade it down my neck. If you don't have a contour brush, a little trick is if you have either a blush or a powder, you just pinch it and use it as like skunk brush. Skunk brush. That's all I ever call it. Apparently it's also called a stippling brush.
I've heard it called a stippling brush.
Stippling, this motion. 2 things you can really use this for. Obviously, you can do like fantasy makeup if you want dots, like stipples. That's not a normal use of it, but it could work. The other thing is it's really good for mineral makeup and for buffing. So if you want a more natural look for your foundation, you put the foundation like on your hand or something, swirl it around, and then you're going to do swirling or buffing motions on the face. So liquid foundation, this is really great for. You can also use it as a blush brush. I've done that before. It's actually more intense than you would think it is as far as the color. These are foundation brushes. So usually these are very dense. They're almost always synthetic. They just seem to work better as a synthetic material as opposed to a natural fiber. You can use them obviously for foundation. You do want to be careful as far as how much you're putting on the brush or you will get the streaks. If you get the streaks,
that's why I don't use it.
You can take this and buff the streaks out. Or I like to use a sponge. So this puts it on. The reason I don't use a sponge for my whole face is because the sponge absorbs a lot of product and you end up losing a lot within the sponge. This is one of the last face brushes. It's commonly known as a fan brush. Fan brushes are good for a couple of things. Number 1, highlighting cheekbones. So get the highlight, great for loose pigment, anything, and just brush it along the cheekbones. You can highlight along the bridge of the nose.
That's a genius idea.
And then the other thing is whenever you're doing a really dark shadow, often you want to do your foundation last because you get lots of fallout. 2 things whenever you're dealing with fallout, take a translucent powder and take like a really dense brush and put a ton of powder underneath. It'll catch most of the fallout and then you just take this and you brush it away. And the last base brush we're going to talk about is the lips. So you can see, I don't know if you can or not, but mine is a lot shorter and it's a lot more dense. It's going to pack on the color more. This is more loose and fluffy, not as stable. So this is probably going to be a better bet as far as really getting the color on. Okay, moving on to eyes. First brush. So this is just your general shadow, paddle brush, I guess you could call it. Very dense. Is mostly for really packing on the colors. So if you want a really intense look, this is going to be your best friend. You can press when you're putting on your eye. That'll pack it in. Great for using, I use it for my highlight color on my eyes because I want that really intense and really bright to brighten up my eyes, especially in like the inner corner. These are various blending brushes. We're going to go through them. They're all shapes and sizes. So when people say blending brush, it could be anything really.
That's good to know.
Just so you know. There's different blending brushes. This is really dense. You see it's hard. You can use this again. It'll do a lot of pigment. The denser the brush, the more pigment, like I said earlier. This is called a smudge brush. It's a little tiny, I don't know if it's even focusing when I do this. Little tiny bristles. They're not very long. They're really, really dense. And it's really great for under eye smudging. So when you do the cat eye, you don't want to leave it like completely blank underneath. Or if you're doing a smoky eye, you need something underneath.
Professional.
Use a smudge brush. They're really great. This is my favorite one. It's from Lancome. It's just really tapered. It's like a tapered blending brush. This is what a lot of people call the fluffy brush. So this is your fluffy brush. This is great for contouring the eye. So anytime you want to do kind of that, like what I do all the time, is the contour, the crease, and really making it soft though, not really intense. This is another blending brush. It's a smaller one, and it's a little more dense, so you're going to get a little stronger color than with the big one. But you can see they're both kind of tapered. This one is mostly used for the V of the eye, kind of working in a lot of color here in the corner. Yeah, I'm going to pretend like I'm putting makeup on you. And then working it this way and this way. So, and then it blends, and then if you wanted to, you could take in a bigger fluffy one and soften it up. But this is going to be a little bit more intense just due to the fact that it is more dense. This is another blending brush. It's going to give you a different kind of effect. It doesn't have that taper. It's kind of like a fluffy paddle brush. After shadows, your next step is probably going to be eyeliner. There's a couple things you can do with liner. I know Jenna did a cat eye video with the angle brush. Using shadow that way. You can use an angle brush with gel liner, or I like to mix the two. I like to put gel liner on, or cream liner, and then use powder over the top.
Is gel and cream liner the same thing?
Yeah, I just mix words.
Oh.
One thing to look at with angle brushes, you want to see how tapered it is this way. It's very flat. If it's very flat, you're going to get a really thick line. It's going to be harder to get that sharp line.
Like that one.
I like the thick ones for underneath the eye though, because they do a lot. They kind of do the same thing as that blending brush. So I love angle brushes. This little one right here, I also like to use for the eyebrow. If you ever want to color in your eyebrow but you don't want to use a pencil, because pencils can be kind of harsh, especially if you're kind of new to it, just take a color that looks similar or go a little bit lighter than you think you'll need. I promise it will go on way darker than you think. But you just put it in and then lightly kind of work through your brow. So angle brushes are also good for that. And the other eyeliner brushes I use are kind of like this. It's very little. I used it today. It gives you the nice like sharp line. Or you can get this brush. I hope it's focusing.
Little baby.
Yeah, it's what I call my paintbrush. So it's going to be really detailed. The only thing difficult thing about it is this part. It's very flexible, and so you have to have a really good kind of hand motion.
Oh, wait. My push liner brush.
She gets to talk about it.
Yay. Okay, so I saw a video the other day of it's GossMakeupArtist. And the whole video was about these push brushes, and it's an eyeliner brush, but it's flat on the top, and it's for people like me. Like when I open my eye, I don't have very much lid that you can see.
Like this much.
Yeah. So if I try to put black liner on the top of my eye, it looks like I have black eyeshadow on. So he was saying for this brush, you put your product on it and then you like kind of angle it down and put it just right on your lash line. So you don't swipe it. You just kind of push it. It's called a push brush. And he was very insistent on that. You push it, don't swipe it, because then you get too much product. That's all.
I learned that today.
Five brushes. If you
Yeah.
don't have any, these are the 5 to start with.
Yes. Number 1, powder brush. Good for powder, for blush, for contouring. If you do the pinch trick like we talked about. There aren't really any other tools that do as well as a brush in that area. Number 2, either pick one foundation brush or a concealer brush. You don't necessarily need both. The foundation brush can act as a concealer brush, but if you like using your fingers or sponges for foundation, go ahead and get a concealer brush. It's really dense and it's great for covering blemishes, especially with acne or scarring, things like that. It's great for that. Next is a paddle brush. It's still blue from our little demo earlier. This is your number 1 eyeshadow brush. It'll pack on the pigment. That's kind of what most people want to do with shadow. It's great for the highlight color, packing it on the eye, underneath the brow, things like that. So that's going to be your number 1 shadow brush. After that, I highly, highly, highly suggest a fluffy brush or a blending brush.
It's so fluffy when I
Yeah, I love it. It's great for contouring the eye, blending, anything like that. So this is your 4th brush. I almost lost track. And then finally, the 5th brush is going to be a really good angle brush. You want something with a nice point that will give you a sharp line. So that is all. Those are your 5 brushes. Will be used right here.
Or
the foundation. It's 6 brushes, but these are either or. So that should get you started. And if you have any questions, you can ask Jenna and she'll ask me.
email me at amateureverything@gmail.com and I'll pass it on to her. Or leave a comment below the video or visit my Facebook.
I'll answer her Facebook page.
She'll answer me. Alright, well thank you. That was so
You're welcome.
informative. You're the
Aw.
best, smartest friend I have.
I try.
Except
Yeah,
for
just
any friends that are watching, then you're the best, smartest friend I have.
I should show you the picture of what we did before.
You should.
The orange.
Maybe I'll insert picture here
It's a picture here.
or later.
Sounds good.
Bye.